Story maps. This is a tool and technique for your ACP exam. The product roadmap gives us the ability to visualize the product backlog, its various releases and features to be available in each release, which consist of multiple iterations. Story maps, popularized by Jeff Patton, is another way to visualize the product roadmap, not the backlog, but visualization of the product roadmap. Story map helps to identify, select and group a set of features for a release. The features in the story map can fall into three broad categories, and these three categories are important to know: backbone, working skeleton and additional features. There are two axes in story map. In the x-axis, the timeline or sequence of features are shown, whereas in the y-axis you have the priority or the optionality of the features. So in x-axis you will have the sequence of steps, whereas in the y-axis you will have the stories to be picked up. The high priority stories will be towards the top, whereas the low priority story will be towards the bottom of the story map, and gives a representation or a structure like a map, and hence the name is story map. These rectangular boxes are the story cards. We'll see more detailed story map in this video. The backbone is on top of the story map and includes all must-have features. You just can't prioritize them because they have to be in the system. These are must-have features. The backbone provides the minimum set of capabilities needed to deliver the product or solution or service. This can also be called the minimum viable product, or MVP for short. Just below the backbone, which consists of epics and themes, you have working skeleton. These features make the system work. That is the smallest or minimally marketable set of features. So what is the difference? The MVP makes the system viable, whereas MMF makes the system functional. Let us take an analogy to understand. We have a backbone in our human body. If you do not have a backbone, we can't even sit. We cannot even lay down. So the body is totally not viable. Now with our backbone, we also have a skeleton. Without skeleton, we are not functional. We cannot stand up, walk, run, eat. We can do nothing functionality wise. So first you need the backbone. Just below that you will have minimally marketable set of features. Just below that you will have additional set of features which you can choose. Finally, below the working skeleton you have a set of optional features, the third category, which are prioritized based on their importance to the system. And this story map is shown in this diagram below. First we have the backbone in the green color rectangle. Here we have epics and themes. Just below the backbone we have the working skeleton in the orange color rectangle, highlighted one, this one. And we have the workflow sequence or the sequence of steps. And below the working skeleton we have the features, the optional or the prioritized features. The high priority features will be towards the top, the low priority features will be towards the bottom. And as it is showing in the x-axis you have the timeline. This is the timeline, sequence of steps, whereas in the y-axis you have the features. After the features are placed on the map, sequenced and prioritized, those are the story cards which are prioritized, various releases can be determined. To consider the number of items taken for a release, the capacity, velocity and iteration lengths are considered. The below figure shows the items to be delivered in the first release, which will consist of the MVP as well as the MMF, and also it is showing the second release. The first release is highlighted in red line. So this is the first release is highlighted in red dotted rectangle. And as you can see, it consists of the backbone, which is the MVP. It consists of the working skeleton, which is the MMF. And also it is taking some features from the optional set of features. Below the first release we have a second release, which is in dotted blue lines, or this is the circle, or not exactly a circle, it's a dotted blue line shape. And we have a second release which is taking a number of additional features. Some agile practitioners mention that the first release is the first row below the working skeleton, second release is the next row, and so on. It is not correct. You can choose to have the optional or the prioritized features from various rows based on your need and capacity. So what I'm trying to say, that some people think that below the working skeleton, this first row will be the first release or the next release. After that, another row will be the next release. It is not correct. As you can see, in the first release I have taken all MVP, MMF as well as some features. In the second release I have not taken a row wise selection. I have taken the features as and when or based on my need and the priorities for the system to be delivered. Related to this, I have a tip in the form of a question. I have already given that tip. So here the question back to you is, do you remember where we have seen minimum viable product or MVP and minimally marketable features or MMF before? We have seen in lesson 4, there I have explained MMF and also I have differentiated between MVP and MMF. So along with this video, I would suggest that you go back and revisit that particular video if you do not remember. And in fact, it is a good time to revisit because these are important concepts in Agile and you should know them well.